Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today we are discussing We Live in Time, a pretty recent movie with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. But before we get into that, before we get started, I gots to warn you, I gots to let the people know that we are crass and unhinged. We're terribly unladylike. And we're going to talk about all of the naughty times using all them four-letter words.
There were boobies in this.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the boobies for a second.
Gosh.
So yeah, there'll be boobies talk. Titties. Tiggle bitties, if you will.
What else is in the movie, Wigs?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There isn't a ton of trivia, if you will, about this movie with it being new. But there are a couple of things. Apparently, there was one day where Florence Pugh couldn't be on set because of other filming commitments for like those things where they talk behind the camera and stuff like that to the person who's actually being recorded. So Andrew Garfield brought a cutout of her to set. Which is a choice. This is also the movie that had the kind of scandalous thing where during a particularly passionate scene, Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield apparently did not hear the director call cut because neither of them stopped and they just kept going.
Yes, and I think they kept going for like a bit.
Like a bit too long.
Like the director said cut a few times.
Yes.
Whoops.
Yep. So that happened. Also, on a sadder note, Andrew Garfield's mother died of cancer in 2019. So this is apparently one that hit really close to home.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's, and a happier one is the director and Andrew Garfield worked together before on the movie About a Boy. So there you go. Those are the fun facts I've got. Danny, what's this movie about?
This movie is about a particular couple, and it kind of shifts between different time periods, kind of three specific time periods. So it's the current time period, the time where they first met and started dating, and then kind of an in-between period where she was pregnant. And in the current time period, she has stage 3 ovarian cancer. And she's kind of dealing with the fact, trying to decide if she actually wants to go forward with treatment or if she wants to forego treatment and just have a really good 6 months with her husband and daughter. And it kind of is just showing the different facets of their relationship, the different moments and happy times that they had together and bad times that they had together, because every relationship has iffy moments. So let's discuss.
Yeah.
And before we do that, I guess obviously trigger warning for cancer and fertility treatments and general sadness.
Yeah. This is a sad movie. This is not a rom-com.
No, I knew there was going to be some serious and potentially like sad parts of it going into it, but the description of the movie is just like these two characters, Tobias and Almut, and like the 10 years of their relationship. That's it. That's like the description if you look up the movie.
Yeah.
Well, in the trailer, they show some of the funnier moments too. So you might think that this is a really fleshed out look at their lives. And so they're going, of course, there are funny and happy moments to go along with the negative moments. But
yeah,
that was like all of the happy. Well, not all of the happy, all the funny was pretty much in the trailer.
Yeah.
Just like the way that they categorize romance movies specifically is so frustrating, because I remember looking it up at one point and one, I don't know, online source said it was romance suspense, which I think is probably the most accurate. And one said it was romantic comedy. And I'm like, that is vastly incorrect.
Yeah. I mean, there's cute, funny moments in it, but fuck me, no.
I would also say, like, I think a big part of that is they've stopped making romantic movies with the intention of pleasing their audience. Like, it just seems like they're going through the motion with a lot of these, and so they don't really know what they're making. Because when you look at, like, even the saddest, like, heart-wrenching romantic movies, and the rom-coms that have come before, like what's been happening the last 10 years is really lackluster and not really meeting the expectations of romance or comedy or romance and drama or romance and it's just romantic, right? It's not really meeting expectations at all.
Yeah, well, I think like, so for this movie, it's about a couple and their life, and a lot of it is about their love and you know, their marriage. Well, no, not their marriage, their relationship. And so that means it gets bundled into romance. And no, not in the way that I would consider romance, which is like people getting together. Like you only get to see a little bit of them getting together, which was cute, but.
Well, and I would argue this isn't a romance because while it is about two people and their relationship with each other, it is not about the romantic aspects of their relationship together.
Right.
And so are there moments that are romantic? Yes. But
Absolutely.
it has, the focus of the story has very little to do with that and has more to do with the fact that this character is dying of cancer and how all these important moments or seemingly important moments are just slipping through their fingers as they go, right? Which almost is like not tied to the fact that they are romantically involved. They just happen to be romantically involved. You could tell the same story if it was like a parent and child. You could tell the same story if it was siblings. Like it would still be structurally the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, the one big difference there is the kid, right?
Right.
So we get when she's learning she has cancer and making all of these decisions, their daughter is, I don't know, I want to say like 4-ish, 5-ish.
And adorable.
Yes. I don't remember the kid's name.
Alice.
There you go.
Don't ask me how I knew that.
No idea how you knew that.
Pulled it from the ether.
And so there's also a lot of decisions that she's like thinking about as a mother, but also as a professional, because she's a professional chef who owns her own restaurant. It has a Michelin star, or she just got a Michelin star, and she's also a competitive chef. So like there's also this professional aspect of her life of like, did I achieve enough? Did I do enough?
And the food she made looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
I know it's so super fancy and whatever and not really my thing, but it was so pretty.
This is a whole fucking soapbox I'll get on about fine dining, which is, I think that it is like, sure, it probably tastes absolutely amazing, right? All of this food that these people are making, but it's so pretentious. It's so like, and we cut little pieces out of things. Yeah. So, and then everything is so meticulous, but it's not like, for why? Like, why do I need to see that you put this like little punched out piece of basil that looks like a flower? Just put basil on it and call it a day.
I don't know. Rich people are weird.
Rich people are weird. I just want tasty food.
Yes. Though I do find like more rustic food appealing because I look at it and go like, damn, I want to crush that.
You know why?
Because
we're
it's po.
peasants.
Because we're poor.
Yes.
We's
Yeah.
po.
Yeah. Like there's a whole like science to like the food that you eat when you're young and how that ends up affecting what tastes good to you as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I constantly want to crush a baked potato.
Yeah. Because that's peasant food right there.
God, I haven't had a baked potato in a long time.
Same. And like every time I have one, I'm like, why don't I make baked potatoes more? I like them and they're super easy.
They're
Just
so easy.
put some tin foil around it and put it in the oven. And every time I'm like, what should I eat? And then I never think of baked potatoes.
You could also microwave them.
Yeah.
Not with tinfoil. You have to use saran wrap before some idiot does that.
You can microwave saran wrap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That can't be good. That's got to be like, well, we all have plastic inside our bodies anyway. So like, who cares?
Who cares?
Anyway, speaking of the topic of her like being like master chef,
Yes.
the equivalent, right? I honestly thought that was one of the more interesting things about the movie. Like I wanted to know more about that. I loved her partner. I can't think of what their name is.
Jade.
I thought they were super interesting. And also just like a ride or die, like the way Jade steps up when it's question of, are you on drugs? Like even that question was Jade stepping up. But then on top of it, when she reveals like, yeah, I've got ovarian cancer and it's not good. Jade's like, all right, do you want to step back? no, okay, well then I'll be right at your back and we're going to get good at this and we're going to win. I was like, God. And then like at the end when her hand is shaking and Jade steps in, I'm like, ride or die, Jade.
And the shaving the hair when they
Yes.
had really cool hair too.
Yes.
Oh, I disagree. I was glad the hair was gone.
I also agree with that. The hair was
I
no
liked
bueno.
it. I was like, oh.
I was like, why do you got boy band hair from the 90s going on?
The frosted tips, but curly.
Yeah. That's not a good look for anybody. It would have been fine if you didn't frost the tips. That was... Oof.
Yeah, it was the frosted tips that was the problem.
Yeah.
Like the natural hair, totally fine.
Great. The frosted tips, that's painful. And it might just be because I'm a child of the 90s, you know? But here we are. Yeah. Jade was probably one of my favorite characters. And the irony was I could not figure out what their name was.
I only knew because at one point it was embroidered on the chef jacket.
Oh.
Because
Excellent.
anytime Alma introduced them, it was Jade and last name, but it was like strung together as
Yes.
one word. And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, what's the actual, what's the name?
Right? Or they would like exclusively go chef to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not helping in this situation.
Which is really interesting as my husband, who is a chef and who has worked in fine dining restaurants, that's how they talk to each other. Like that was entirely accurate. Just like chef, 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 chef.
That would be so annoying for me. I wouldn't be happy. I'd be like, stop.
Yeah.
I now just want Pappy to cook for us again.
Oh gosh, this is entirely off topic. But before I came here, he made me a cauliflower steak with an onion sous vide gravy situation and roasted carrots. It was
Nice.
very good. And my mashed potatoes. I made the mashed potatoes
Before
with an entire half block of Colby Jack cheese in it because cheese belongs in mashed potatoes.
No, incorrect.
Cheese does belong in
You
mashed
guys are
potatoes.
so wrong.
I always put cheese in mashed potatoes.
There wasn't any gravy on the mashed potatoes.
Okay,
though.
that makes a difference. That makes a difference. If you're gonna put like, especially like a meat gravy on a mashed potato, and you're gonna put cheese in it, I can't trust you.
Okay,
See,
then you can't trust me because I would do that
I can't
left,
trust
right,
you.
and center.
Cannot
Oh, yeah.
trust you.
So would.
Will not eat your mashed potatoes.
Well, here's the thing.
Now you know.
There are many things that I will make for myself that I probably wouldn't make for other people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's like my own like little trash panda situation.
Oh yeah. I've got things that I would never, ever, ever let anyone else see me eat, but I fucking love them.
Anyway, they also like there was just like dumb little things watching that I really appreciated, like the chef knife she had on her wall were actually some of the knives we have at home. I literally was like, we have those knives.
Here's a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Do you crack the eggs the way she says is the best way to crack the eggs?
I do, but I will do it slightly on the edge of the counter, so like a rounded counter, it'll have a little bit. But yes, I mean, I do sometimes do it on the edge of the bowl, but that's how you get more shells.
Big fact.
But I don't do the whole like crack one egg into a bowl, check and see if it has shells, and then put that in another bowl because that's too many dishes.
Yeah.
Same.
Like I get where she's coming from, for sure.
Well, it's probably a little different in like a commercial kitchen where you're trying to do things a little
Right.
quicker.
Right.
Because
Or
it
when
is easier to take shells out of one egg than 5.
Right. And when you have a commercial dishwasher, or more importantly, somebody else who's washing the dishes,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
that's a different thing.
I do side of the bowl, and I just like deal with the consequences. Like I will unless I'm making it for like someone else, but I'll be like, I'll find the like
Yeah.
deals and I'll get it out of there. But I get what she's saying. I just don't like having to like scrub my counters also.
Yes, you do have to, because
Yeah.
just watching it, I watched how much egg yolk got on the counter. I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy, you've been
Yeah.
a mess.
Yeah.
I do it on the counter. I don't do the side of the bowl.
Yeah, you just wipe your counter off afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, and most of the time I don't get shell in. It's just like when it does happen, I'm like, consequences. I must now deal with them. It is what it is. Yeah.
I liked the callbacks in this movie.
There
that
was
happened.
a lot of them.
And one of those has to do with the eggs is after she has, spoiler alert, passed away, which is kind of the assumption. They don't like flat out tell you, but it's the assumption that
Yeah,
she
that's
Yeah.
definitely what happened.
Yeah.
For sure.
and he's there with their daughter and they're going to make food. And he said, do you remember the best way to crack an egg? And she,
Yeah.
does the cracking and does a really good job actually for a small child.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I've read recently is like people have been talking about students now not having enough dexterity, and that later on impacting other things because the things like having to write out an essay hurts too much. And so I think that getting your kids to in the habit of doing things like that is really good because like they have to like think about it, and so they have to have that mental power and the hand power to do some of those tasks like cracking the egg in a way that isn't just splatting it, right?
Is it just because we're not handwriting anymore that's causing this?
I don't think it's just handwriting. What some of the people who are commenting on it were saying is that it has a lot to do that. And apparently in bigger schools, they're reducing recess to the point where kids aren't out like just running around and playing and tactile and touching things as much.
Oh.
And this is coming from somebody who would usually beg my teacher to let me stay inside and read instead of go to recess. Recess is pretty fucking important.
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah, you should not you cannot just like force kids into learning all the time and expect that to be a positive result.
Well,
Like,
and the other
right.
thing is this is coming from 3 people from the Midwest. It's fucking cold a majority of the year that we had recess, and I still wanted to go out every single time. We had King of the Mountains. There was always this big. We had baseball fields on ours, and there was a big mountain of snow along the where the fence is, and so we had this big snow pile, across those 2, and we'd constantly we're building castles and squirming around on top of those, and it was a lot of fun.
I didn't always have the same experience. And I think part of that is because when I was in elementary school, I was way up north. So this was before I moved to the same school that Wiggs and I went to. And we were on a hill. And so the wind, she was just a coming. And so we spent entire recesses where we would go to the one corner in the building that was created. And we would play the sitting game where one person would wall sit and then everybody would just sit on the person slaps, and that was the only way to stay warm, and that's what we did with our entire recess.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm
not making this up. This happened.
I believe
we know.
believe you. Yeah.
Just huddling in corners. That's what we did.
There were definitely times we weren't allowed to go out for recess because of how cold it was, and then we got to go do like parachute in the gym, or depending on
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. Like even if you weren't doing recess, you were doing activities.
Yeah.
That were engaging both tactile and mental. So yeah, I don't know. I would encourage people to cook with their kids, I guess, is the moral of the story.
Well, also, it's just like a life skill that you need to have.
Yeah,
so there you go.
It's shocking to me the amount of people who have gone out into the world and don't know basic things about basic life.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I say all the time that I'm a terrible cook. It doesn't mean that I can't enough to clearly feed myself.
Right? Like I've met people who have no concept of what it is to do their own laundry, no idea how to cook, no idea how to even go about paying their bills. And I'm like, I'm going to need you to get caught up because life is going to come at you hard.
Yeah.
So
There is a person on TikTok that I've seen that her kids have it's their own mini kitchen. The refrigerator is a mini fridge and everything. And they have their own kid safe knives and everything. Sure. And so she's teaching them how to cook with their own little thing. And it works really well. They're pretty good. I'm like, you're better than me are, bro. Go for it, kiddo.
Yeah. So getting back to the movie though, the other thing that we find out pretty late on is she was also a competitive figure skater.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was maybe the one backstory that I was kind of just like, okay, I get that the point of it was to tell the story of her dad, who had also passed when she was younger, to then have a connection point where they go figure skating at the end with the daughter, and also to kind of explain that she's just always been competitive and kind of reinforce the idea that when she decides during her cancer to still continue and do this big competition, that it's something that she kind of has always loved, and it would be really hard for her to pass up an amazing opportunity like that.
Even if she's being a little bit of a jerk.
She is, but I understand it.
I get it.
I don't agree with it, and it's not the right choice, but I understand it.
I get it. And the only thing that actually like made me mad in the situation is like, you need to just have a conversation with him about this, because she just fully hides it.
Yeah.
And like, they're supposed to get married on the day of the competition. What was she planning on fucking doing?
Well, it was funny when Pap literally asked the same question when we watched it, and he was like, what is she planning on doing? And I'm like, she doesn't know. That's the thing. She doesn't know. She's just bulldozing forward.
Well, and like he goes with it, and is honestly a very good sport about it, I will say. But like, which further proves that she really just needed to have a conversation with him. And that's what frustrated me. But I also understand that in those experiences, in those moments, especially with something as difficult as, you know, you have cancer and everything, and he needs to understand that you need to do certain things for yourself in this situation. It's hard to have that conversation, and I get that it's going to be an emotionally charged one, but you still need to do it.
Well, and what we find out later in the story, because it's not told linearly, is that she had already had cancer. And so this is her second time going through it. And so she immediately just kind of goes to I'm not going to survive this, so let's use this time to do what we can.
You do actually find it out fairly early on, because they say it's because it's recurring.
Oh, I didn't.
But
catch
that's the only like thing that they do. They don't really address that she previously had cancer until much later. But they do say that because it's a recurring event.
The one thing I don't like, though, is the way that they stack it. They imply that if she had a double
Oophorectomy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And had completely taken everything out, that she wouldn't have come back, and that's not really how it works. Like, you can still not have those parts, and the cancer can come back. And so it's just because of the way they stacked it, because they first had her have it and basically told her like their recommendation would be that you go completely without ovaries going forward, but if you do, you'll never be able to have kids, right? And then she makes a choice to keep one in the hopes of having kids. And then, apparently 3 or 4 years after having her child, she then does have it come back, and then it's too big for them to operate on. And that all is believable, but this idea that if she had taken it all, that she would somehow have been able to prevent it, there's literally no way of knowing that.
There isn't. She would have had a much lower risk of it recurring. Yes, she could have still ended up in the same situation, or she could have not.
Yeah.
That's like the hard part of asking that. And I think, like, for me, and I don't know, maybe for you too as well, but as a very much like child-free person, it would have been so easy in that first instance for you to make the decision of just like take it all, rip it out.
I've had my child. They can have it.
But like, and especially too thinking of, there's a lot of other ways to still have children. And she even talked about like freezing eggs and IVF and all of that. But it just shows in my like view of watching it that, like you said, you never know what your decisions are going to bring about.
Right.
And so you just kind of make the decision you think that's the best in the moment.
Right. Well, and what I think is kind of surprising from like a medical standpoint is that after she gave birth, that their initial instinct wasn't to examine all of that again.
Yeah, that was kind of what I thought too, but we don't know they could
We don't
have.
know that
they
they
didn't.
It could have been very fast growing.
Also, with fertility meds having been used, that can grow things, cancer wise and everything too. So we don't know that they didn't check. They probably kept a close eye on it for a certain number of years, and then it's supposed to be, come back for checks. My father still gets checks, and he's been cancer free for over 30 years. So,
but it also seemed like, and this is just my like interpretation, because she was working so hard at her restaurant, like be surprised if some of those checks didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of the vibe I was getting.
I think she maybe was a little medically neglectful. I'm not judging because same, bro. But especially if you've already had cancer before, you got to get that shit checked.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting to me. I'm not going to presume what messaging they were trying to necessarily put out, or if there even was a message behind it in terms of thought there. But it's interesting to me that they would have such a strong conversation about the potential of having kids, because the argument that almost breaks them up entirely is that he's like, I'm falling in love with this girl, so I need to make it clearer that I want to have kids.
Yeah.
And she's like, you need to step the fuck back, which I 100% agree with her on that one. I was like, absolutely not. You don't get to come in here and tell me that I need to make you a promise that we'll fucking have kids. That's insane.
So I agree and disagree.
Yeah.
He wasn't asking for a promise that they were going to have kids. He was asking to have a conversation about it because he doesn't want to fall in love with her and then have this issue later on. He wasn't saying, let's have kids. He was saying, can we please have a conversation about this? And she threw it back in his face.
To be fair, he chose a real shit moment.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did
did.
not go about it right. But I understand both perspectives. And I think overall that's kind of my interpretation of this movie, is that it's not like we're telling you anything about anything other than this is just life.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for her to say, well, I don't know how long they've been dating at that point, but it feels like not just a
Early.
few months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for her to be like, and we are not there yet, dude, like back off. But for him to also be like, you've already told me that you don't want to have kids, which is fine, but I need to know how firm you are on that before we go further.
Yeah, before
Yes.
either of us gets hurt worse.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand the conversation he was trying to have. I understand her response to the conversation he was trying to have, but he also did not communicate it well. Because
No.
he made it seem like he was asking her to have kids with him right this second, which is how she took it, and I understand her response. That's not what he was trying to do, though.
Well, he came
Yeah.
at it from the standpoint of like, well, your biological clock is ticking.
Yeah, that
Oh,
makes
yeah.
that phrase will get you throat punched.
Right?
I do love her response of like, I'm 34, back off. And
Right?
as somebody who's 34, I was also like, yeah, you tell him to back off.
I mean, well, and like, I guess, like, yes, also, you know, at that point, it's considered a geriatric pregnancy after 35, which is like, shut up.
Yeah.
But also, like,
Yeah, that phrase came out when I was pregnant. She goes, "You're not, but you know, a few more years you would be considered a geriatric pregnancy." And I went, she goes, "I know. It's so insulting, but there's no other way to put it." And I'm like,
I've heard from just like the internets that term is becoming or considered by some people to be more antiquated. So hopefully we're moving away from it, because it's not nice.
no.
it was still a thing said 11 years ago when I had my child.
Well, 11 years is a long time.
I know. I just made myself feel really old.
I was gonna say, I didn't.
You watched me die in my eyes
No,
die.
it was more just like my brain was catching up to my mouth situation.
But yeah, you know, so if someone, like, here's the thing. If I've been dating somebody for a few months, even if I'm like starting to be like, yeah, this one's really clicking with me. Oh my
Yeah.
God. If you were to come at me with that conversation that strong, that hard after I've been out drinking all night,
Yeah.
you're not going to get a positive reaction.
No.
But
You'll be lucky if you don't get an angry reaction. So like, I completely understood where she was coming from. I was like, yeah,
I didn't disagree with either of them. I was like, you guys need to take a step back and then sit down and calmly have a conversation with both of you are sober.
yeah, the amount of conversations that happen while there are too many drinks, though, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
That's when that type of shit comes out.
it's true. You know, now feels like the right time to transition into this, which is, I understand that this is an emotional movie. I understand that it hits some really powerful emotional notes, but the slipping through time that they're doing in their storytelling really cut off the build to that. Like, I was like, I recognize that I should be sad, but I didn't feel it throughout this whole movie. It did not hit me emotionally, because it felt so out of sync with what was happening. And so, yeah, it just didn't work for me at all.
I think I can see that. I can see definitely knowing, like, in the beginning kind of what the end already is, or, you know, there's only a couple options because you find out she has cancer right away. But I guess for me, I felt really connected to it, but it might be more so because, like, my husband's a chef and I work in IT. And I'm really stubborn and driven, and he's kind of really slipped into more of like a kind of more caregiver mode. So it just kind of really hit home over here.
It hit me in the feelers, but my feelers are easy to hit.
I also watched this with my husband, so I don't know. I don't know how much I would propose watching this with your significant other.
The pregnancy stuff hit me a lot. There's one particular moment where they like get into a bath together, and he like hands her a cookie and she puts it in her mouth, and then he hands her another cookie and she sets it on the belly, and I'm like, 100% did that. I set shit on my stomach constantly.
I was not anticipating, but the birth scene.
The birth scene was great.
It was really good.
That was really well done. I was, again, those clerks at the gas station, I was like, you guys,
You're real ones.
you're real for that.
I loved their fist bump at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that brings them together. Like, I
Right.
hope that they're now like each other's best friends.
Her wandering through the gas station being like, I need this in labor. I'm like, I 100% feel that.
I was mostly just kind of like in awe from like a production standpoint of that scene, because they did have essentially an infant, which that's one of my biggest critiques in like TV shows and movies, when they're like, this is a newborn. I'm like, that baby is 6 months old.
I get that though. Like,
I do, yeah.
If I had a baby, there's a 0% chance that like days after giving birth to it, I'd be like, yeah, you can use it in a television show.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So, you know, it's probably hard to convince somebody to be like, we'll be really careful. Will you?
But
will you?
I will say they do it and call the midwife all the time. The babies are actually quite proportionate.
Yeah. So that was a really good scene.
It was a very good scene. I love the like on the fucking phone with the 911 operator, like, you know, apply pressure. You want me to push it in? No.
I know. I was like the woman clerk, Jane. I was like, when Jane started screaming, I was like, listen to Jane.
Yes.
Yep.
What? Don't do anything stupid. Clearly, she's the only one in this room that knows how to protect this woman. Oh my God.
I love that they're like, Jane, the key broke, and Jane like looks at the key, looks at the door, and just starts to kick it in.
What else are you gonna do?
I love
mean,
it. I love it.
There was zero hesitation on that
She
one.
was like, yeah, we're gonna kick it.
I had a really so Andrew Garfield's character is kicking in the door, and my immediate thought was, kick it in, Spider-Man. This is nothing.
I
doesn't have
literally
his-
did say to my sister, I was like, he's not Spider-Man anymore. Not Spider-Man anymore.
But he did have hot glasses.
He did
was
have
very
hot
cute.
glasses. I liked him in his glasses.
You know, I also just in general like that this was a story about people who weren't 22.
Yes.
Yes.
So, you know, I like that they had their wrinkles. They had their, like, it looked like he had some little gray patches sometimes.
He's divorced.
Yeah, he's divorced.
Yes.
They met because she hit him with her car.
I loved the meet cute. The meet cute felt like it came straight out of one of our rom-com books.
The wild part about it to me was from the very beginning. Why are you walking out of your hotel in a robe?
Oh, I asked the same question.
He was
And why-
so dissociating. He was just
Yes.
like,
Well, and also the reason he needed to leave his hotel is because he didn't have a pen to sign the divorce papers. And I'm like, dude, you're in a hotel. They have a sea of pens downstairs.
He's
Right,
like,
I was like, why
I
didn't
gotta
you
go
just
buy
ask for
them.
one?
I was like, no.
And his chocolate orange,
And
which
his
is so
chocolate
British.
orange, which
So
was
fucking
dead on
British.
arrival.
Yes.
The chocolate orange was
It
dead
does
on
make me
arrival.
want to go get one. My grandma used to get them for us.
Really?
Oh, I get
Yes.
them too. I get them every now and then for myself.
I've never had a chocolate orange in
They're
my life.
so
If
good.
you don't like fruit and chocolate, you will hate it.
I like strawberries and chocolate.
Orange is a different flavor profile, but
Well,
the
yeah.
Brits really do like the orange and chocolate, and I gotta say, I enjoy it.
I enjoy it. Plus, it's super fun because you get to bash it on a table.
Someday,
Okay.
I'm gonna make Mary Berry's Jaffa cakes and see if those are any good.
I'll be here. I'll just sit on your couch and be like, good job, Wigs.
Thank you.
We'll watch A League of Their Own.
Yes. Those feel like they shouldn't happen at the same time.
No,
though.
Probably, yeah.
And they're
Maybe
not really
make-
the same vibes.
Maybe make the Jaffa cakes and then we'll eat them watching A League of Our Own.
Sure.
Their own.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then she invites him to the restaurant opening, the restaurant. That's such a big factor in their relationship. He is the most awkward, bumbling person. I guess I just love his introvert vibe to her extrovert. Just her running around doing things at the farmer's market. And he's like, okay, yeah, I guess we're going to go try some cheese. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'll do this.
It felt really real though.
Yes.
I was like, it's me personified.
Yes. What I liked about it was that most of the time we don't really get that kind of character representation. Like if they're awkward and introverted, they're also weird and uncomfortable. And he wasn't that. He just was like, I really like my lists and I don't like talking to people and I like you though.
And I'm gonna, when she was pregnant, okay, I got my stopwatch. I've done all my research. What about your mucus plug? And I was
Yes.
like, oh, buddy.
I love when
I thought it was cute.
I did too.
I thought it was cute. So when they're trying to get pregnant and whenever they're taking pregnancy tests, he sets the timer for 3 minutes and he literally just holds it up in her direction the entire time, every time. And I was like, that's cute and sweet.
He is very supportive. He falls into that a lot. I get it though too, right? Because there is something about being the caregiver that you also kind of over caregive and that wasn't addressed too much, but I did kind of get it, especially when she was having her second bout of cancer, of like trying to just solve everything for her, be like, okay, we're gonna do this and you'll step back from work, and that's not what she wanted to do.
You gotta remind yourself not to be suffocating sometimes when you're a caregiver.
Just shut up.
But I also appreciated her patience.
That was not a criticism of you, Liz.
Well, you were looking at me when you said it.
I was talking about someone else in the room.
Why am I being attacked?
I wasn't attacking you either.
I'll have you know that I've pulled back a lot.
Same.
I'm almost normal.
I don't tell my siblings what to do overtly anymore.
Yeah,
Now
now-
I do it sneakily.
Now it's only once in a while that I tell her she needs to take the trash out.
I live alone. I do not have this problem. I have to tell myself to take the trash out.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Yes.
Yes.
My therapist told me that if I should not stop being a controlling person. It's part of who I am, and that's okay.
Correct.
So that's who I am, and that's okay.
Okay. Did you say, and that's exactly what I told you to write down? How hard was that?
Good job, therapist. I don't know how she would respond to that.
Oh God. I would love to see you tell her that.
I think, though, the reason I brought that up is just because the movie's focus really is on Almut, I think.
Yes.
And especially when I was looking up reviews after I watched it and stuff, I saw a lot of people talking about like her selfish choices and yeah, it is like, I guess on paper, some of them are selfish choices, but it's not just about like her failings.
I agree with that. Well, and she does end up explaining to him why she's making certain choices and everything. And it's more about having her daughter remember her a certain way.
That line that she said when she was like, maybe it was something like, maybe I just don't want to be forgotten.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
fucking hit.
Well, and that's what I think for me, the most successful parts of this movie in doing what I think that they were trying to do, which was have this slightly esoteric look at a small subset of people and how we interact and how these big moments are important, were the last three segments that we see, which is her walking away from her cooking competition after a seemingly successful run, but her hands are shaking and it's clear that she has an epiphany moment of, I don't have enough strength to keep doing this. And Jade stepping in and taking over, and then them going ice skating and her skating away and her daughter saying, bye mommy, and like, look, say goodbye, she's skating away, right? And then jumping to the last moment, which is just with Tobias and his daughter, and they're cracking eggs and doing that. Like that was the most successful of them doing narratively what they were trying to do, which was show us how jump to jump to jump to jump that mattered. They didn't successfully do that in the rest of the movie, in my opinion. There were moments that I think it like worked from one to the next, but not cohesively in a chain.
Yeah, they definitely broke up the emotional
Tension.
Yes, there you go. But I guess one of the things that I thought was successful in my mind is because this is all the rage right now in movies is the non-linear storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I'm usually iffy on it because you have to be good at it. I actually enjoyed the non-linear storytelling in this. There was never a point when it switched to a different timeline that I didn't care about that timeline. I was like, oh, and now we're going to do this now. But that's my opinion. I don't know if you had the same thought process.
I do agree. It was much more successful. The one that they had the non-linear timeline, and I do not think it was successful, was like Challengers. That's also one that had a very non-linear timeline. It was going back and forth between about 3 different time periods. And I never knew whether I was coming or fucking going, and I had no clue. Whereas this one, I think it was more successful. There were things about it that immediately let you know what time period you were in without them having to put it on on the screen. For instance, her blonde hair was in the first one. The second one, she was heavily pregnant always during that. Mm-hmm. And then she shaves her head fairly quickly for the third one, or their daughter was there. So there was big...
Right. She had bangs when she was younger, and then she didn't when she was older,
There were big things that let you know what time period you were in, but they were subtle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the problem I have with it was not the jumping itself, but was how it was telling us the story. And so if you're going to jump back and forth in time, usually it's going to be that we're connecting from one point in time and why this flashback we're going to impacts why what we just saw mattered, or will impact what we're about to see is going to matter, right? And they weren't, in my opinion, weren't as successful in that. From a narrative standpoint, it didn't. They broke it up, and you could have told the same story going in a straight timeline, and it probably would have been more impactful, in my opinion. The other thing I didn't like about it is we didn't get enough of any timeline. And so I wasn't really invested in any point in time in their lives. I think they needed one point in time to have more focus so that these flash forwards and flashbacks, or however they wanted to do that, meant more. But we didn't really exist with them in any one time for long enough.
I think it was definitely meant to be the present time, because we get a lot of that towards the end of the movie. But I think they were trying to build up a lot in the beginning, so you almost had to be patient until maybe halfway through the movie.
Right.
But I guess that didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that it bothered me. Like, I don't think that's really the right way to say it. It just disengaged me. And so, like, my feeling at the end of this movie was, there were some really great moments in this movie, but, like, this same story has been told about 500 different ways, and the only distinction separating this movie from like a Lifetime original was 2 really big name actors and a director who had a nice vision for the look of the show or for the movie. But otherwise, there was nothing about the story that was unique. And so it's felt like they were leaning on this non-linear storytelling to make it unique rather than giving us something else, something punchier to make this story special.
See, and I actually liked that it wasn't punchier. I liked that it just felt normal. It felt like these are people's lives. Like, it didn't have some amazing twist or some like grand thing that was kind of making it different. It was just, and this is life. And I really liked that. And
I can get why that would be something anyone would like, but for me it just left me feeling like, well, it was fine. Like, I saw a movie. I'm very like neutral with my reaction to it.
And I think it almost got me more emotionally because it felt so just kind of like real in normal people's lives. Like if there is such, like this grand thing that happens that feels different or punchy or whatever, then that can sometimes take me out of the emotional reaction of it. If it feels more grounded in reality, it feels more emotional to me.
Same, actually. I respond much more emotionally to like very normal people's situations than anything else.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. I just don't think, for me, it was not successful in this movie.
Sure.
I do. So we talked a little bit about the fact that it does focus on her a lot of the time. She is the one who is going to die, and is going through all of this. But I like the small moments where it shows his small breakdowns. Like they've had the fight about the fact that she's been doing this, and he's not mad that she's doing the competition. He's mad that she hasn't been taking care of herself.
Yeah.
And the lying. Because lying.
Obviously the lying.
Yeah.
But his response then is to go and get rid of the wedding invitations that he has created, that because her big competition is on that day.
That stabbed me right in the heart because it was like such a sacrifice on his part. But it also felt like it just felt like him realizing what she really needed.
Yes.
And because we didn't talk about the fact that he does propose to her after she finds out again that she has cancer for the second time, because they haven't gotten married, and which is also kind of discussed a little bit that his parents aren't married. So there's just little kind of bits about conversations about the validity of marriage or like what people think about marriage.
Well, and I think they just never thought it was something that needed to happen. They had obviously had the discussion. When you're in a relationship with somebody long enough, you end up having that discussion.
Yeah.
Whether you're pro or against it, you usually end up, talking about it at least.
Well, it's like an expected discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for him to go out and then dispose of the, quite frankly, beautiful invitations, I liked how because he's the one who made them.
Yeah.
He was the one doing all the planning and everything. But him having that breakdown of realizing what she needs and doing this for her, but also he has this breakdown away from her.
Yeah.
And that is very realistic. I feel like your loved one not wanting to upset you, so they have the breakdown where you can't see it.
Yeah.
I do wish sometimes people would maybe not do that, because you'd probably have further understandings of each other, but he needed for her not to see him do that. And so he does it outside by the trash can.
Yeah.
As he's throwing away the invitations, which that moment made me bawl.
His breakdowns were always, other than that one, they always seemed so small, but so like impactful. Like when he was trying to rush her to the hospital and they were stuck in between two cars, and he just keeps trying to maneuver the car to get out onto the street, and eventually just says, fuck it, and crashes into the cars to get out.
Because people parked like assholes.
Yeah.
Did also think it was very realistic and unfortunate, but also funny that they got there and it was like, you're not actually in labor, so bye go home.
Even though you called the hospital and described, the contractions and how long they're lasting and how far apart they are, and we told you to be here, sorry.
They checked her and her cervix was not dilated.
Yeah.
He's going to have quite a few tickets because he runs into both of those cars and sets off their alarms and definitely fucks up the one in front of him. And then like abandons his vehicle on the road to catch up with her running into Tesco.
Yeah.
Pregnant lady needs her snacks.
Yeah.
And I get that. Not personally as somebody who hasn't been pregnant, but like, I do understand.
Yeah. I needed my snacks, man. Then I'd set them on my belly. I was very large.
Getting back to something you said at the very beginning of our chit chat, Danny, is there's a lot of callbacks in this. And I was planning to actually watch this again today because I watched it last night, but time got away from me because thinking back on it, there's so many things that I noticed afterwards. So one of the first sex scenes is actually in the present time. And there's a very deliberate moment where Almut has a scar on her belly and he kisses it and we don't know what it is. I was like, oh, is that it's not in the right place for a C-section. What is this scar? And they never address it, but you just kind of have to piece it together at the end that was her first surgery.
Well, I think you can figure it out kind of contextually because it's right after she's gotten diagnosed a second time, and she says, "Before I do my treatment, I think we should have some sex."
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the puzzle pieces they're expecting you to put together there.
I did not catch in the conversation when they were at the doctor that was a reoccurring issue. So
I do like she propositioned him that way. I love that in movies when they do like a weird proposition. It's one of my favorite lines ever in the movie Jaws, where she walks up and sits down next to him. She goes, "You want to get drunk and fool around?" And it makes me so happy every time.
because as much as we read in all of our romance books and stuff of them going and running into each other and banging it out, sometimes it's just
Want
want to go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the like plain old like proposition or a goofy one. Like
Yes.
you're like, hey friend.
Hey, what if I just take this off? Yeah. There was also, I really loved the connection between the cutting hair. So when in the way past the meet cute era, his dad Tobias's dad cuts his hair because he's living back at home because of the divorce and all of that. And so I was kind of like, this is a weird scene to see. Like, why is your dad cutting your hair? I don't know. But then it connects to when he has to cut her hair down the road.
And they put it in a little suitcase.
Yeah, that was very heartwarming and sad.
I will say something we haven't talked about, and we promised to talk about at the beginning.
Was the boobies?
Boobies!
The boobies!
Yeah.
There was a lot of, they were short, but there were a lot of sex scenes in this.
Yeah. Florence put her boobies out there a lot. And
I have seen.
I'm sure many people are happy about this.
Yeah, she's done that before.
Oh, yes.
Was she the one in Oppenheimer?
I didn't watch that.
I didn't
haven't
either. But I know there were boobies in that movie, so.
I was firmly in the Barbie camp. Did not Barbenheimer.
Yes.
Anywho.
Yes, she was boobies out a lot.
Yes.
There was also a lot of naked pregnant women.
Yeah.
So they must have had at least a couple body doubles there,
Yeah. Well,
which I thought was really cool. Again, it felt real to just be like, oh, you can actually see all of the belly and everything.
yes, you can see a real body. And I liked that. I was sort of like, Andrew, you're not pulling your weight. We did get a butt. We did get a butt
We
shot.
did get a butt.
Yes, we did, but we needed more.
I agree.
I mean, I'll always take an Andrew butt.
Yeah.
It's true. It was more just like he wasn't even shirtless that often.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't pulling his own weight. And that's on him.
Yeah.
I will
Yes,
say.
she was in Oppenheimer.
Thanks,
there you
Danny.
go. That's the facts we needed to know. do.
Boobies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just like appreciate that they didn't make this skinny, like has put on 0% weight while pregnant body. Like
Yeah.
that just looks so gross whenever they do that in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just not how the human body works.
It was a realistic pregnant looking body and it was
Yeah.
gorgeous.
And if you're
Yes.
emaciated when you're pregnant, like that means bad things.
Uh-huh. Well, there's even a scene when she's taking the fertility drugs and she Tobias is giving her a shot in her belly for it, and she literally grabs the fat of her belly and holds it out for him. And I was just like, you look like a person now.
Yes. A hot person.
Uh-huh.
I'll make that clear. But like, you didn't look like, I don't know, like you're a stick figure with lips. Yeah.
Also, she can pull off a shaved head.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, she can.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody can do that. And the worst
No.
part is you can't find out until it's too late.
It's true. Then you got a long time dealing with that.
Yes.
And you're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll discover wigs.
Will you wear wigs? Have you worn wigs?
Yes.
No, I have too much fucking hair. So one of the things that I was trying to figure out, how is she going to get caught in this whole like competition thing, because
Yeah.
she was essentially lying to him about the competition thing. And what ends up happening is that he says, "Hey, can you pick up our child?" And she forgets completely. And so when they have the big blowout about the competition, one, he's pissed because you left our child somewhere.
Yeah.
Two, he's mad because then he finds out that she's really not taking care of herself the way that she's supposed to, because these competitions are brutal, and to be a chef in them, You have to do a lot of stuff in a quick amount of time, but it's like each of those phases of that competition were hours long.
It's like 5 or 6 hours. Yeah.
And so her body can't take that. And so I just kind of really appreciated that. Yes, he was mad about she forgot the kid, but that can be forgiven. Parents do that. Unfortunately, it happens. But he's pissed that she's been covering up this entire part of what she wanted to do.
To the point where she had actually done one of the competitions and
Yeah.
made it through the first heat. And not only that, he said at one point, he's like, I didn't know where you were.
Yeah.
And, you know, when she's sick, anything could have happened.
Well, and it's especially egregious because it wasn't like, oh, the next thought process for them would have been, we're going to call dad, because she specifically was taking over pickup for that day.
Yeah.
But I did love the line that he has in there, which is, it's one thing for you to want to be remembered, but for you to be remembered for accomplishments we didn't even know you were doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work.
Well, and then we get to see him bring Alice to her last competition. And I got to say, what a patient child to sit there
Right?
for 5 hours.
That is the least believable part of the entire movie.
I know.
It really was. Well, she does fall asleep on him at some point, but like,
And they had snacks.
Yep.
Which is important.
Yes.
Many
But
snacks.
Still. What do they have? Some kind of angel baby? Come on.
She was a very mild-mannered child throughout the entire movie.
oh God, when that fucking waiter, he was like a magician when they took her out for ice cream
Yeah.
to try to explain what was happening. They're going to have the conversation with her and everything. And then he's like interjecting and just wouldn't take no for a fucking answer. It's one moment where you see him snap.
Yeah.
And you can, I love that bit of it because it does show how actually tightly wound he is in this moment, and somebody who tries to keep his head cool and everything. Like they have the fights and everything, and you see, but that was a very telling thing about his personality.
Yeah, it definitely seems like his way of coping, other than that, throughout the entire movie, with her first finding out she has cancer, to all the fertility issues, to her pregnancy, and then having cancer again, is just to, like I said, over plan and over control everything. Like that's how he copes, is to just, I will control everything now.
His little notebooks.
But that's kind of the cool thing about the two characters, is even though that they're distinctly different and they can kind of almost fall into just titles or types or tropes or whatever, they really seemed to kind of work together. Like they were so cute together.
They were really cute together.
I also appreciate that they understood each other's quirks most
Yeah.
of the time. Like, obviously, you're going to fight with people because that's just human nature. You can like somebody a ton and still have things that you're like, why do you do this way? But like, one of the things that I thought was great was when she first gets diagnosed, she goes to the appointment by herself because she doesn't really realize that that's what they're going to tell her. And they call her and say, you should come back into the office. And as she's explaining, the first thing she says is, I took notes.
Yes.
Because she knows that's what he needs. And then he's like, you took very good notes. She's like, thank you.
I think what he actually says is your note taking is immaculate, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a really sad movie, but it also tries to be, I guess, wholesome or even like hopeful, especially towards the end.
I love that they got a dog.
Well, that's because she said that they should get a dog because it really helps children cope.
I did like that was like this morbid joke they had between the two of them, because that to me felt the most like relatable in terms of like just the macabre way you have to go about life when you just know that bad things are going to happen. Is sometimes dark humor is the only thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad we decided not to sacrifice a dog.
Yes. What do you want to do? Get a dog and then kill it?
No, just like an old one.
Just an old dog. Yep. And that's the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're at the very sad but still currently happening ratings time.
What's your guys' spice rating?
We did see some boobies.
I
Yeah.
mean, for a movie, it had quite a bit, but somehow it feels inappropriate to rate it too high. I can't put my finger on exactly what that means exactly, but like, yeah.
Because it felt like all of the moments weren't like, oh, and then we're going to have sex. It was just like these little flash in the pan, like a couple of minutes on the screen of, and now we're progressing our relationship, or we're having sex before I get treatments, or we're just like being funny and silly and having sex.
Like the sex was there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't sexy. It was intimate.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Look
Yeah.
at you.
I do words good sometimes.
Even floor sex was very intimate.
The floor sex?
Yeah, so I guess I think I'm gonna go with like a 2.5 because I really don't know how to rate it. So
Yeah.
2.5.
I was going to do a 3 just because I was like, it's in the middle. That
Yeah.
seems safe.
I was going to go with 3 as well.
Okay.
Because we do see things.
Yeah.
We see more than some movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
Cool.
lot of nudity, but
There
not all
was.
of it was sexual. A lot of it was romantic, and sometimes it was pregnancy and baby coming.
Yeah.
Romance.
I thought they were very cute. It was very sweet a lot of times, and I was also did appreciate the not sweet times.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with a 4.
I was also thinking right about there.
Same.
It's a very different type of romance.
Yeah.
It's a more realistic type of romance. You get to see the reality of arguing with your partner.
Yeah. But you also get the super cute moments when he draws her bath and then they get in the bathtub together and he feeds her cookies.
And she's like, "What about your stopwatch?" She's like, "Waterproof."
I was like,
I died. I
damn,
died. Man. He looks so proud of himself too. He goes, "Oh, it's waterproof." You're like, I tracked my contractions on my phone. Thank you very much. But
so did you also say 4?
I did, yes.
Which means gavel, gavel. What's your overall rating?
I wanted to like this movie better than I did. And I don't even think that it's like a bad movie. I just don't think it hit with me.
Sure.
And but I also felt like I was just watching something I've already watched before. So in interest of being both fair to the quality of the acting and the style, I'm going to rate it higher than I think it resonated with me, but how I think it should be rated.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I am happy having watched it once. I will never go back to it. And that's usually for me, that's like the highest rating you can get is like a 3 unless it's traumatizing. And that's why I'm not going back to it. $1 Million Baby, you know what you did.
Oh, God, yes.
So that one is a 5, but I will never touch it again. So...
See, and that's why I struggled to rate this movie. And I'm still, honestly, even right now, waffling in my brain because I really enjoyed it. I thought I really enjoyed all of the aspects of like the storytelling. I enjoyed the nuance. I enjoyed seeing this real life scenario play out. And I thought it was very heartbreaking at a lot of points. Do I think I'll ever watch it again? No, but that means very little coming from me as somebody who doesn't watch a whole lot of movies. So, you know what? I'm breaking our rule here and now. We're not doing halves anymore. I'm doing a quarter, and I'm giving it a 4.25.
How dare you?
I do what I want.
Well, now that you broke it, also 4.25.
Well, here's the reality. I don't know. There's no consequence.
I've been saying it for a while. The amount of times I go, I'll give it a 4.5, but really it's a 4.25. I'm just done with it. I'm done with fucking just doing what I want.
You're finally learning. I've said it a million times. It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Yeah, but I'm also like a really big stickler for rules.
I know.
They are self-imposed rules, so
Those are the ones that I'm the biggest stickler of, though. Like society's rules can go fuck themselves.
okay. So later on, when we're robbing the bank, we just need to make sure that she knows that it's just society's rules.
Murder, just society's rules.
What murder? The greatest guy around.
Anyway, what are your recommendations?
Okay, so don't be mad at me, but I lied when I said the name of the movie because I got 2 movies confused that came out around a similar time. Confused.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense because you were saying Vanilla Sky and my brain went,
What?
what?
Yeah.
But I'll
Yeah.
believe you because I haven't seen it in so long. But also that really fucks with my joke where I was about to be like, and my recommendation is what you recommended. It was going to be funny. Haha. Everybody laughs. You get mad at me.
Wiggles threatened Liz within an inch of her life earlier.
So, my recommendation is Sweet November, starring Charlize Theron and Keanu Reeves. Very good. It's about this woman who has, I don't even remember what she's got going on. I think it's cancer, but she's terminal, whatever it is. Maybe it's a brain tumor. It's been a while since I watched the movie, so the finer details are lost on me. But she has adopted this very like live for the moment, go through life, enjoying as much of it as you can because you never know when it's going to end and your time is shorter than you think kind of life. And so she has a time limit on how much time she will spend in a romantic relationship with somebody. And she tells them at the start of it, this is how much time you get. So you have to agree to that or we cannot be together. And so over the time of them being together, she of course does in fact fall in love with him and vice versa. But I won't spoil how it ends up, but there are some moments where they feel very much like that is not enough time, and it's very heartbreaking, but also beautiful and also fun because she's, manic pixie in the best way. So yeah, it's very appropriate. So if you were like, I want to cry more, here's a rec for you. Enjoy.
Fair enough. I'm going with a very classic cancer movie rec, A Walk to Remember. It's not similar, but is at the same time. It hurts your feelers. I'm not going to lie. It's probably been since high school since I watched that because trauma. I remember watching it and being like kind of traumatized and not. I remember liking it.
I will say, if you're like, hey, I remember that movie, I want to check out the book. The book is very different. The movie
Really?
took a lot of liberties. So yeah, I read that way back in high school though, so I couldn't tell you again the finer details of what was different, but I can tell you that the vibe was different. But the story was similar, but that plot points were very changed. So go into it knowing that.
What you got, Liz?
I don't know why you think I have anything over here. I actively, as also I don't watch movies, but I actively avoid anything that's this serious. Ever since The Notebook, I was like, emotions, not today, Satan. So I guess one could say The Notebook.
I was gonna say that would have been my other one.
But it was really, it was such a weird connection in my brain because I was like, after watching the movie, I was like, what recommendations do you have? And the only thing that popped into my brain that took the emotion I was feeling at the end of this movie and connected to something was Hamilton.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Sometimes we go on
rate
vibes.
on vibes. We recommend on vibes. Okay. So Hamilton's your rec. What emotional connection were you drawing?
Oh, well, the idea of Hamilton and the character kind of sacrificing family and time with his family for his own kind of personal drive and desire and goals. And then also, there's a B plot that happens that I don't want to spoil. That's very sad in the second act in their family. So,
Yep.
That's one that'll make me cry.
yeah.
That one hurts me even hearing the music.
I
can't count in French without it anymore.
If I can get to the end,
Not that I really
of the
count French,
album, oof, you better stay out of my way. I'm gonna be crying. I'm gonna be crying.
Yep.
I don't even watch the movie. I still go back to the album. Watching the movie was a great experience, or the recording
Right.
of it. You know what I mean? But I still go back to the album, and I just have myself a good old weep fest.
I've watched the recording on Disney many, many, many times.
Same.
Many, many, many times.
I will say, when I was in grad school, I would use the Hamilton album to measure how much time I would work on a project. And so I was like, this took me 2.5 Hamiltons. So
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Fuck.
I had some big projects.
Oh Oh gosh. Well, that brings us to the end. So if you like this episode, you can check us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, primarily on TikTok and Instagram, Threads, YouTube. I don't know. You find us places. Or you can go to our website at wrongdustjackets.com, where you can find a list of episodes we've done, ones coming up, our blog post, which sometimes every few months gets updated. And we would like it. We would be so happy and delighted and just heartwarmed if you went to whatever podcast listening app you're on and gave us a like, 5 stars, rating, review, whatever's available to you. It would make us so happy. That's what I got. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.